welcome to another edition of the Addicts Network podcast. Jason Sardi here, and we have an extremely special guest, Sun Sentinel columnist and writer extraordinaire, Omar Kelly, and of course you know him from X's and Omar. How you doing, Omar?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you. So I know we're going to lead off with our co-host Brian Byrne of the Fanatic Network, and we'll get rolling here.
Yeah, obviously, Omar, how you doing? We can't start an interview this year without first talking about Tua. So just if you want to give us what your impression has been thus far in camp of about a week of seeing Tua practice.
He's as athletic as he was at Alabama. I've watched him scramble 2 times, trying to elude pressure out the pocket, run, and he looks just as athletic as any other running back, not even quarterback. So that's been a pleasant surprise coming off the hip injury. The accuracy, the timing is good. He's got good pocket presence, so he's not like Ryan Tannehill where he's taking a sack every 5th snap. The anticipation, you can see that it's there. He can throw precision passes. You can see that that's there. So a lot of the traits that you expected to see from him, they're present, they're there. Just the understanding of the offense is not there. Comfort level with his weaponry is not there. And really, and to be honest with you, arm strength. I know it wasn't sensational. I thought it was decent, NFL standard, and that's truly just what it's been. It's just been NFL substandard. He's a tick above where Ryan Fitzpatrick is. Not to say that arm strength is the paramount thing that everybody's looking for, because I'm an accuracy guy over an arm strength guy, but that has been a little bit something that I'm paying attention to.
Sticking with the quarterback room, obviously, we have a very solid quarterback room in Miami. There are 3 people there who the fan base and some writers are talking about have potential chances to be a starter at one point or another this year. But to me, I think that regardless of who is under center, got to figure out who the center is. Talk to us about your observations from an offensive line standpoint and how important that gelling and figuring out who is so far.
Well, to address your quarterback room question, I think there is no competition. There's Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then there's everybody else, and there's a wide gap in between the 2. Now, will that stay the same in 2 months? I don't know. I can't say that. But Fitzpatrick shows he has a clear mastery of the offense. And what I've really noticed is he raises the standard of what the offense can deliver. From a talent perspective, he makes everybody around him better, from coaches to offensive line to tight end to wide receivers to running backs. He just raises the level. And I've always said this about quarterbacks, even going back to the Ryan Tannehill era. My judge of what a good quarterback is he has to raise the tide. And that's what Fitzpatrick does, which is why I don't believe there's really anybody competing with him right now. Now, could that change in the middle of the season when he's 3-7? Absolutely. I think both quarterbacks are going to get their opportunity, just because I don't believe Ryan Fitzpatrick's arm will last a full season. That wasn't the case. That was the case last year. There were points where his arm died out, faded. He needed a break. He has to be on a pitch count, and I think that's going to be consistent this year. But would I love a good, mauling, respectable offensive line in front of whoever is starting at center? I'm starting at quarterback? Absolutely. I've been a big believer in trench play wins games. Not quarterback play, trench play wins games. You can establish the run. You can run when teams don't want you to run. You can protect the quarterback. You win the battle at the line of scrimmage. You give yourself a chance to win games. That's offense and defense. Win the battle at the line of scrimmage. That's how Tony Sparano won games. And say what you want about him, but he's probably been the best Dolphins coach since Dave Wanstead. And I know what everybody feels about Dave Wanstead, but look at the record, and you haven't even come close to that yet. What I will say about the offensive line is they're young, they're unproven, unestablished. don't necessarily have any leaders, or Eric Flowers is stepping up as a leader. Ted Karras is stepping up as a leader. Jesse Davis is trying harder to be a better leader. But it's really been Eric Flowers who is leading the young batch of rookies. They're there after practice every day working on things, and it's encouraging. Now, can they develop chemistry? Who knows? I can't honestly tell you that the coaches won't even know until they get out there and we see how they are in terms of moving people in the run game. And I think that's the biggest factor for me, how they handle themselves in the run game. But what I can tell you is they're big. They're a large line, massive. When Jesse Davis was one of your biggest guys on your line last year, and he's now one of your smallest guys on your line, that tells you exactly how big they are. And they are massive.
Who of the three rookies, has any one of them stood out to you more thus far, or they're still just kind of getting there?
I can tell you they're all better than Michael Dieter. Let's just start there. And the question is, what is the upside? And Solomon Kindley, surprisingly, for a guy who's about the size of John Jerry, I've been pleasantly surprised that he makes it through practice every single day, no issues. No movement from the starting lineup, no reps off, just makes it through practice. He tells you he's 335 pounds. That's what he weighed in today. And I haven't seen him up close and personal, but that man looks bigger than 335 pounds. But it's been encouraging to see that he has the stamina to play in the NFL. Now, the coaches have expressed a concern that they can play 60 snaps. And I do get where he's coming from, because you haven't seen them do it in a game. Practice is not the same kind of intensity and effort and level of physicalness as a game will be. So I think you might see a rotation, or they begin with a rotation in terms of Solomon, and maybe Robert Hunt gets in there at right tackle and right guard. He's cross-training and learning both positions. Everybody's cross-training except for Solomon Kindley. He is right guard only and looks pretty good at it. Austin Jackson, he wins and he loses every day. And that's what you can expect from an offensive lineman, especially one facing off against an NFL starter in Shaq Lawson. And I do believe Shaq Lawson's an NFL starter. But what I will tell you that I've noticed is, in past years, there are far more sacks in practice. Maybe not last year, and that's part of the reason why I don't believe in this defensive scheme. But yeah, there were more sacks in practice last year. This year, there aren't that many sacks. There just aren't. And I don't know what that means in the scope of things, whether the defensive line isn't that good or whether the offensive line is great. I have no idea what it means. Quarterback could have better pocket presence. We'll only know when they start actually playing games that matter.
I agree with you fully on the – sorry, Brian, just to stick with the offensive line importance. I do think that both lines, you build from the inside out, is of massive importance. And this is a line that was the worst across the board, pretty much. Sacks, QB hits, yards per carry, which correlates to every aspect of offense. Just to stay a couple of points before getting back to Brian, the physicality that Austin Jackson mentioned, and the potential athleticism of a right guard stapled in, ex-lifeguard in Solomon Kindley. Do you have if this unit can move up to the 20th best or worst, I think it's a win. Do you think that they can get into the second, third, moving back up north as an overall unit with what they're doing in Miami?
That's one of the things I have a problem with Dolphin fans. I think we need to raise the bar a little bit. I mean, you've seen a decade of mediocrity, 7-9, so our expectations are super low. And, if they have 7-9 record, I think Dolphin fans, yay, 7-9. That's not my standard for this team. I mean, Steve Ross has spent $243 million in NFL record this one offseason, whether it be signing rookies, signing free agents. That's a lot of money. $243 million, 143 of it guaranteed money. Like, there should be no excuses. This should be at least a 500 team. And my standard is for a winning record. Now, in terms of the offensive line, yeah, they're going to be growing pains. They're going to learn, they're going to develop, they're going to progress. But they need to be in the top half of the league. And those are my standards for them. Those are my standards for the defensive line. Those are my, stop expecting mediocrity. Like, being in the bottom half of the league is not good. It's not acceptable. Like, this is a once proud Dolphins franchise where you ran Dave Wanstead out of town for 10-6 seasons, and now people are celebrating 7-9. Like, that to me has to stop.
You said a decade of mediocrity. I think it's really been 2 decades of mediocrity.
Well, I mean, if you throw in the Wanstead years, 10-6 ain't that bad. Now, in hindsight, you look back at it. Yeah, he probably had a legendary defense, a great defense, and a legend at running back in Ricky Williams. But let's not pretend like he did it with Jay Fiedler. Like it's Jay Fiedler. Like where would Jay Fiedler rack up in the hierarchy of quarterbacks in today's game? Like he wouldn't even be on the bar. Maybe he's Gardner Minshew, but I'm just going to count this last decade because I watched from 2007 this team and this franchise up close and personal, and mediocrity is a standard at this point. And somehow, some way, we've done 4 resets. You got to figure out a way to get off this mediocrity merry-go-round.
You mentioned how the trenches are the key to any team, not only this team. We made a lot of additions on the other side of the line with Lawson, Akba. We drafted Davis. What has been your impressions thus far of the new guys? I've heard a lot of reports of Agba's been standing out at the end. What are your thoughts?
Nobody's standing out. I think it would be irresponsible to say somebody's standing out. Cameron Wake stood out. Jason Taylor stood out. Joey Porter stood out. These guys are there. They're. I don't see. In fact, I would say that Jesse Davis is probably the most consistent offensive lineman. So that would mean Agba is not standing out. Just my personal opinion. Shaq Lawson, I've realized he's not that much of a pass rush guy. So that's a little concerning. Very intrigued by Raekwon Davis. When he wants to play, he can dominate. When he doesn't want to play, I paid attention to him one practice because I watched him dominate one-on-ones. I mean, nobody could block him one-on-ones. It's easy work for him, but that's when the cameras are on. But when he's there in the midst of his linemen, after 3 Mississippis of pushing, I'm just there. I'm holding up a spot. I would love to see him jump, try to get in some passing lanes. I would love to see him just try to destroy running lanes. He's got way more potential than what he's playing up to. And I think he talent-wise is probably the most talented physically defensive lineman. And I would like to see that on the field. Now, has Christian Williams improved? Yes. Is Gachow who Gachow is? Yes. What that means for whether or not they could be a top 16 defense, whether or not they can consistently stop the run, I honestly have no idea. What I can say is have not seen much from the running game this year. And I have respect for Jordan Howard and I have respect for Matt Breida. But when Myles Gaskin is your top, in my mind, top performing running back from week 1, that's a little concerning. Now, maybe it's on your defensive line. Myles Gaskin is going against guys I can't even name. So who knows what that means, but I would love to see more from the top 2 backs.
And on another note, Xavier Howard finally got cleared off the COVID-19 list. I know he's still on the PUP list, but there was rumor that
I'm not sure he's off the COVID-19 list yet, but he's coming, yes.
Oh, I thought on Saturday he wasn't at practice on Saturday?
He was at practice, but they have not taken him officially off the list. It's a technical thing that we're fighting and we're battling. It is what it is. But he's on his way back. I don't think I'm not sure he starts the season. I just have that opinion that I don't think he starts the season. I think you're going to start the season with Noah on the boundary opposite Byron Jones, and we're just going to see where the rookie is before X gets into the mix. X is, if you follow his career, when X is healthy, X is dynamic. In my opinion, based on what I see first week of Byron Jones ain't even close to X. Doesn't even sniff F's jockstrap. But X has to be healthy. If he's not healthy, he's not good. And we've been battling with this knee issue for 3 years. I think we have to proceed with caution, and try to make sure that we get the 2018 Xavier Howard, because that player's dynamic. That player's a difference maker. So I think we have to proceed with caution with these knee issues.
Totally agree with you on X. But go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Just a follow-up question on that. If you think Noah's going to start on the boundary, who do you see moving in the slot for those first couple of games if Howard can't go?
You mean who's going to play the nickel? I think it's going to be Jamal Perry, who played the nickel last year. That's his role. That's where they're comfortable with him. I think we can possibly see Eric Rowe play the nickel and somebody else step up and play strong safety. Eric Rowe has got a lot of versatility. He can do a lot of jobs. And I do see him sort of filling that Minkah Fitzpatrick role that he had early last season before getting traded, where he's covering the tight end, where he's covering the slot receiver, where he's moving back to strong safety. I think that they are trying to examine what they have at strong safety to see how they can build and move forward in terms of what they do defensively.
Now, in terms of, the undrafted free agents, a lot of undrafted free agents are, I don't want to say a lot, but guys like a Preston Williams or guys like Nick Needham from last year came on strong. You had a Sam McGuavian who was a CFL guy. Have any rookies in camp that were not drafted been doing anything that's going to raise your eyebrow?
Nothing worth mentioning.
Brian, there's a lot of people, a lot of radar guys. Dolphin Nation loves kind of having these darlings. Got like a Kirk Merritt on the defensive side.
Nobody even worth mentioning. Nobody's done anything that's actually gained my attention. Not even worth mentioning. Nobody's Patrick Laird. No, nothing. There's nothing there. Not so far. There's just nothing there. Maybe if they had a preseason, we'd start to see guys shine. But, you got to understand, the rookies have been on a practice field for 5 days. Generally, you don't start to get a full grasp of who players are and what they can do until that second preseason game. And that means they've been in an off-season program in terms of OTA, in terms of rookie mini camp. They participate in the mini camp. They've had some OTH sessions. They started training camp, practice for 3 weeks before they start to flash. And they start to realize, I've always said, rookies get to the point where there's a moment where the light bulb goes on and they say to themselves, I belong here. I could play. And then they start playing like they belong here. There have been very few exceptions to that. Jimmy Wilson was an exception. Sean Smith was an exception. Jake Long, clearly an exception. Kendall Langford, an exception. Jarvis Landry, an exception. I can name those exceptions where guys just showed up and good to go. Even Preston Williams. Preston Williams did all of the offseason program. No need to even learn his name. Week 2 of training camp, light bulb just comes on. One of the quarterbacks, I can't remember which one, just started identifying him as like, this guy's going to make me stick around, feed him the ball. And that's what they did. Right now, not even just and understand it's because of how far they have been set back because of this offseason. Nobody is standing out. Not even just the undrafted guys. The offensive linemen. They're there. They're starting. They've got girth, but do they get beat during practice? Yeah, they do. Austin Jackson gets beat all the time. I'm surprised that people don't mention Shaq Lawson to me is way better than Emmanuel Ogbah just because he wins more. But he's going against a rookie versus Jesse Davis. It's, there's a balancing act there. I think the coaches have gone a smart approach of what they're doing in terms of, veterans are going against rookies. Even think about it. Austin Jackson has to get prepared for NFL rushers. So it's better that he faces a Shaq Lawson and a Julian Davenport goes against Jason Strobridge, because Jason Strobridge needs to learn what a real borderline NFL fringe caliber offensive lineman looks like. So it makes it a better, a fairer, easier evaluation as opposed to rookie on rookie. You understand what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
you have to factor in those things when you're watching practice so you can calibrate in terms of what you're seeing.
How much do you think
Strobridge showed up yesterday. First time I'd seen him all week.
I was
And
going to ask you about that.
there's just moments where, like, I haven't seen Curtis Weaver make a play all week. There are just moments where guys, they have a good day, or their light bulb comes on, or the guy that they're facing just, he's got a growing issue, he's battling, and he's struggling to make it through practice. You just never know, so you have to calibrate it. But what you have to look for is guys who are consistently making plays or doing something or flashing every day. The Isaiah Fords, the Preston Williams, the Miles Gaskin, the Eldon Roberts. You look for who's showing up every day.
Flores had said yesterday that he didn't have time to do the TNT wall this year because they're just so reduced on time. Do you think that has anything to do with going in with, like what you were just saying, with these guys not showing up yet? Are the rookies getting a lot less reps because we're just so far behind the 8 ball on the time frame?
I think that was a lie from Flores. Number one, let's start with that. Part of the reason why is because the wall was completely painted over. For what reason? Do they not have time to make, Dieter and Tua Tagovailoa run to the TNT wall? Yeah, they probably don't, but it's still a great teaching tool. They could stay after practice and run laps. And I guess he's moving, and I understand. I've been through so many coaches. I've seen so many little trinkets and gadgets, and they were going to do this and accountability and all this bull crap that just really doesn't make a difference. Flores just moved on from the TNT wall. That's the truth. So we'll see. And I'm not – the TNT wall, I called people out because it was clear when they ran to that wall, you effed up. Right now, they don't have the time for that. I agree they don't have the time for that, but there was no reason to paint the wall over. Like, if you're getting a lot, like one guy was doing offsides a lot in practice, and they don't even have refs out there, which to me is troublesome. Noah, they gave Noah an interception. The media gave Noah, I'm like media, like I'm not part of it, but I don't sit with everybody else. I sit on the far end of the field. They gave Noah an interception during the final period of 11 on 11s. It was hurry up offense on Friday, and he dropped the ball. And I saw him drop the ball because it was right in front of me, and I had my binoculars on it the whole time. His second drop of practice. And, I don't know if the team credited him with that. I'm sure they had an opportunity to look over the film. But in those situations, it would be great for you to have reps out at practice and reps on the field. And what are we from the season opener? 3 weeks? I would hope that they get refs out there at least next week to sort of clean this stuff up. Or did what? The NFL tell the refs, hey, it's going to be sloppy in the beginning, be light on the flags? Like, I have no idea. Maybe they don't want to introduce people to practice because they haven't taken COVID tests. I have no idea. But, it's just very odd for me to be at a training camp where there are no refs. And so far, there haven't been any.
That's a big oddity. And obviously COVID-19, the atmosphere of that whole situation puts the season into a whatever happens, whatever it is mindset. But regardless of adversity, you got to find leadership. So, regardless of who's playing well, who's not doing their thing, we have a lot of free agents, a lot of rookies. Who are the leaders outside of Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Ryan Fitzpatrick. Leaders. Devontae is not a leader. Hopefully he steps up. Offensive line, Eric Flowers is stepped up clear as day as a leader. Jesse says he wants to be a leader. Ted Kara says he wants to be a leader. We'll see. Leadership is action to me. Bobby McCain, without a doubt, is a leader. Godchow, without a doubt, is a leader. And then Kyle Van Noy, who I think it was – which player pointed out he's the second oldest player on the team? And it's true. I was like, damn, he's the second oldest player on the team. He's going into his 7th season, so he's got to step up and be a leader. Eldon Roberts has definitely stepped up and been a leader. And Jerome Baker's supposed to be a leader. So, yeah, let's go with that. Let's consider him a leader.
Omar, I always have to thank you so much for your time. This was great. I always have to we always close with asking your record prediction. But before we do that with you, we had Dave on the other day, your partner on X's and Omars, and I asked him the question: in your years of doing X's and Omars, have you guys ever agreed on anything? So what is your response to that? Have you?
We agree on plenty. Dave actually convinced me of something last week when we did the show. What was it? Oh, that Rosen should not be traded. And I had always had the opinion that, hey, get a fourth for him and get out. Don't worry about what he could become. And when I saw him start practice really hot, he's fizzled off since. But when I saw him start practice really hot, I was like, maybe I might want to hold on to that player. And especially this season in COVID, where you just don't know what could happen with the players and coming into contact and catching COVID and then whatever being on, being out for 2-3 weeks. With a quarterback, that's really tricky. So I was of the opinion that trade him, get what you could get. And then Dave convinced me, no, keep him this year. You need him just for COVID's sake, trade him next year. But right now, based on, I'm not a big Josh Rosen fan, and I don't think I'll ever be a big Josh Rosen fan. He impressed me early on in practice, and I was curious to see if the problems that he had, he'd worked through. And then I watched him practice with the starters, and I was just like, oh, this is garbage again. And I'm back to trading him. So Dave convinced me last week, but I'm back to trading him. I'd rather go find a young quarterback that I want to develop and keep it moving.
Did you see at all? I'm sorry, I said it would be the last question, but one more.
Don't bother me. Fire off. Ask your questions.
Ryan took Friday off for what everyone made up to be all kinds of crazy theories, but he obviously just needed a day off. No, you did not. You did not. But did you see? I know earlier in the week you said his arm looked a little lesser than it was. Did it look improved on Saturday when he came back on Friday? Yeah.
Yes. His arm's not great. When it gets tired, it's bad. I need people to understand where I'm coming from. He barely has an NFL caliber arm when it's good. When it's bad, when he gets tired, it's not an NFL arm. And while he can make it through games with his savvy and his poise, because people don't realize this, at the end of the season, he didn't have an arm left. You don't notice this unless you're really, really watching it, but he doesn't throw anything past 20 yards at the end of the season. Now, it was the end of the season, so defenses couldn't really figure it out, and they're just trying to make it through the season. That's my biggest concern about Ryan. I'm sorry, but you're 37 years old. I'm 43. I know what my body feels like. and I don't know how old you guys are, but
I'm a happy medium. You're not getting that out of me, but I'm a happy medium in between that.
Yeah. I have a hard time, and if he does make it through the whole season, kudos to you. God bless you, because it's an amazing feat. But do I expect his arm to die and him to be on a pitch calendar in practice or to have to take a couple of days off? Absolutely. If he's throwing on Monday, I think this team would be doing themselves a disservice. He needs to not throw until Wednesday and probably be on a pitch count if he's going to make it through the entire season. And I know this is not a team talented enough to sort of, take that approach. But, dude, your quarterback's 37 years old. And his arm is borderline NFL arm. And that's not what's made him who he is. There's so much savvy and moxie. The Fitz Magic, I had a great respect for him last year watching what he did, but I have an even greater perspective for him now when I watch the practice without him and then I watch the practice with him. There's he raises the talent level of everybody, just up a little bit more. He makes Devontae Parker better than he is. He makes Mike Gesicki better than he is. He makes Jesse Davis better than he is. He makes the running backs better than they are. And then when he's not there, ooh, they look bad. All of them.
Well, I'm very glad you gave us the overtime. I'm going to ask you one more question in two parts. With the pitch count that you have, that you mentioned for Fitzpatrick, do you see any, dare I say the term, because you did mention Tony Sperano, any wildcat trickery situations this year? And do you see, in the second part of this question, any kind of similarities in just terms of the atmosphere and the maybe potential worst to first in any regard situation?
They're not worse to first talent-wise. They still got a ways to go talent-wise.
Okay.
Expect the biggest jump from the second-year players, the guys who really just like people want to overlook it or they hide it or whisper about it. But the rookie class sucked last year. They were bad and mediocre. Let me not say bad. They were mediocre, and you need to see that class take a tick up. In terms of the wildcat and trickery and all that kind of stuff, Chan Gailey is so. I mean, Chan Gailey's forgotten more football than we know. So what I'm confident in is he's going to put his players in position, and they've said this. What they do well, they'll be highlighted. Like, they're not even trying to have Mike Gesicki on the line. Like, forget about it. Let's not bother ourselves. Let's evolve his role to the point where he's a slot receiver, move guy, and make the best of that.
You just spiked his value 3 rounds in fantasy, by the way, for the viewers. So thank you for that.
I don't know about that because I don't know if he's going to be on the field a lot. So they've got to really find an inline guy because
agreed.
Durham Schmeidt ain't going to cut it for me. Durham Schmeidt ain't doing nothing for you in the passing game. Now he might be a good blocker, and maybe if you're running for 2,000 yards, then you suck it up. But yeah, Durham Schmeidt is not threatening me. I mean, that's my biggest issue with the tight end position. Right now, based on who you put on the field, you're telegraphing exactly what you're doing. I'm sorry, but if Durham Smite's on the field, you're running. If Mike Gesicki's on the field, you're passing. And I know that, and as a defensive guy, it's going to key into how I'm playing you. So they've got to figure out a way, and hopefully it's maybe Adam Shaheen, where they stop telegraphing what they do from the tight end that they have on the field. So that's my 2 cents. But trickery, plays, wildcat, nah. I think they got to worry about just finding a slot receiver, getting the best out of Devontae and Preston and Mike Gesicki. Those are the 3 top weapons in the offensive pass game. Learning to establish a running game. Having a slot receiver evolve, whether it be Isaiah Ford or Malcolm Perry. They got to worry about those things. Efficient play, not having turnovers. They got to worry about those things just to give themselves a chance in the fourth quarter.
All right. So as we take out all our guests, what do you see the outlook for the season? What do you, if you had to put a way too early mark on, or
Sadly, this looks like a 7-9 team. And it's week 1. Maybe, I see this as sort of like a 2011 season where it takes the team a minute to get it and gel and figure out who they are, maybe half the season, and then you see them run off 6 of 9. I just don't see it right now. And that could change within the next month, but I do believe that they're going to get off to a slow start this year.
It's a tough schedule.
Right.
A lot of continuity, 7-9 across the board. We've got a couple of other of your colleagues with that same record, but we really do appreciate the time, Omar, on a Sunday, and thanks for giving us all the info, eyewitness account. And if there's any other scheduling for X's and O, Omar, that you could tell us about, or exactly where to find some of your work, just let everybody know.
You can find me on the Sun Sentinel. For those who subscribe to our work, we appreciate it. Thank you. It's going to be interesting because no practice reports, no tweets from practice. Everything will be behind the paywall. So those who subscribe, thank you. X's and Omars will probably be on a Wednesday around noon or 1. We still haven't figured out based on what the team schedule is. And that's about it.
Yeah, those digital subscriptions this year are more important than ever. You guys are the only 8 or 9 people that are out there. So I know I subscribe to all of them. Get out there and support the local, the Sun Sentinel. And Omar, thank you very much for your time.
As for anybody who subscribes, understand that you're keeping our business alive, and we thank you. This is a hard time for everybody in every industry. Newspaper is not an exception, but I will say that not only just our sports content and coverage, but in these times, you as citizens, with an election coming, whichever side you are, liberal or conservative, paying attention to what's going on in our world, our economy, our society, our local community, even our sports teams, that's important. And as people who work in the journalism industry, newspapers I've always viewed as serving as the watchdogs for society and for the average man. And hopefully we do the job that you expect us to.
Absolutely. Thanks.
I'm out there in practice watching and holding your team, your beloved team, accountable for where they are, their issues. Right now, receiver ain't good enough. It ain't. You telegraph what you do with a tight end, and you got no pass rush. Like, if you don't fix those in the next 3 weeks, you might be begging for 7 and 9.
Well, again, much appreciated, Omar. I told this to Dave Hyde when he was on the show. A little story from when we met last year down at training camp. He gave me a great tip. So another thank you. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I had to really kind of get my writing out there. So a face-to-face, thank you for the time. Thanks for all you do. I have a terrific rest of your Sunday, and be well with you and your family.
All right, guys. Enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Got it, Omar. Take care. Well, that was the Sun Sentinel's Omar Kelly. And as he mentioned, and of course, thanks again to Omar, you got to get through that paywall and subscribe to the Sun Sentinel. There is a small party bus full of, writers and beat writers that actually see what's going on. So definitely keep that, ability going in all forms of, journalism and content. So subscribe on over to the Sentinel. And Brian, any last takes from what he said? Polarizing as always. What were your overall thoughts of his eyewitness accounts?
Yeah, a lot of what he said, I believe, most of the beat writers are saying there seems to be a little disagreement about running back. I've been hearing, Howard has been breaking a runoff in every practice. Travis Wingfield really likes what Ogba's been doing. I do find it interesting that all the beat reporters are in agreement that we really haven't seen Curtis Weaver yet. We really haven't seen Jason Strowbridge too much. Brandon, why am I forgetting his last name? The rookie safety, Brandon Jacobs?
Brandon Jones.
Right?
Brandon Jones.
Brandon Jones, that we haven't seen too much from him, and he kind of, he agreed there. But yeah, a lot of what most of we've been hearing from the reporters. But, as always, we got to do a little housekeeping. Our new sponsor, thrivefantasy.com. It is a really cool fantasy app that it's not just fantasy like you're used to. It's fantasy with prop bets. So prop up, go to thrivefantasy.com. It's available on Apple Store or Google Play Store. When you sign up, if you put in Addicts as your code, you get a bonus $20 with a minimum of a $20 deposit. Please, subscribe to the Miami Dolphins podcast. We are in, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find podcasts, you will find us. Check us out on YouTube as well. It's youtube.com/FinAddicts Network. Follow us on Twitter, Fin_Addicts. And lastly, we want to hear from you guys. We have a hotline set up for you to call and leave a voicemail or a text. It's 786-309-7558. Again, 786-309-7558. Call with your feedback to any of our interviews. Call with your Miami Dolphin takes. Calls with your questions. We have Zach Krantz coming on this week. So if you have any questions for him, hit us with that. Or if you just want to find out what Jason's age is, because he wouldn't display it today.
It's the jersey over my right shoulder -1.
So give us a call. We want to hear from you. Get involved, and thank you for listening, everybody. Fins up.
Fins up, everybody.